Hi friends, today I wanted to discuss about the March 2017 second PU Biology board examination of PU board Government of Karnataka. So there are questions as well as answers as per the scheme of evaluation. So the part A consists of 10 questions of 1 mark each. So let us proceed with that. The first question is, what are hermaphrodites? Bisexual animals which possess both male and female reproductive organs, they are called as hermaphrodites or bisexuals. Mention the asexual reproductive structure in sponges. We can write any one of them. We can either write it as gemmules or internal buds or endogenous buds. We can even write it as exogenous buds or buds. So for all of them you get 1 mark. What is euchromatin? The loosely coiled and transcriptionally active chromatin is called as euchromatin. Why DNA replication is called as semi-conservative? DNA replication is called as semi-conservative because only one strand of the DNA is newly synthesized, whereas the other strand is the parental strand or old strand. We can also define it as, because in semi-conservative method of DNA replication, each daughter DNA molecule consists of one parental strand and one newly synthesized strand. So name the microbe used in the production of citric acid. Aspergillus niger is used in the production of citric acid. What is microinjection? It is a process in which the gene is transferred, gene transfer technique, where desired DNA or gene of interest is directly injected into the nucleus of an animal cell through microsyringes. Define mortality. Number of deaths in a population during a given period that are removed from the initial population density. So that is called as mortality. So number of deaths in a population during a given period which are removed from the initial population density is termed as mortality. So give an example for gaseous cycle. You can either write carbon cycle or nitrogen cycle. Define endemism. The species confined to a region and not found anywhere else is termed as endemism. So the last question of the 1 mark is, what is eutrophication? Eutrophication is the natural aging of a lake due to the enrichment of nutrients. So it is termed as eutrophication. Part B consists of 2 mark questions and you have to answer 5 questions. So totally it is 10 marks. List the hormones produced by the placenta during pregnancy. The hormones which are produced by the placenta during pregnancy are estrogen, progesterone, human chorionic gonadotropin, that is HCG, and human placental lactogen. So any 4 of it, if you write, you get it, and relaxin. So these are all the hormones produced by the placenta during pregnancy. Write any 2 simple principles to prevent sexually transmitted diseases. So avoiding sex with unknown partner or avoiding sex with multiple partners is one way of preventing sexually transmitted diseases or STDs, which is also called as venereal diseases or VDs. And one should always use condoms during sexual intercourse. Mention 4 symptoms of Down syndrome. The affected individual is short stature with small round head, furrowed tongue and a partially open mouth. Palm is broad with characteristic palm crease. Physical psychomotor and mental development is retarded. So half mark each for each point. What is incomplete dominance? Give an example. It is a condition in heterozygous individuals in which the dominant gene fails to suppress the recessive gene completely and it undergoes blending to produce a new trait or character which differs from their parents. Antirrhinum majus example, you can notice there are 4 o'clock plant or Mirabilis jalapa, snapdragon, or it's also called as Antirrhinum majus is also called as snapdragon or dog's plant. Mirabilis jalapa is also called as 4 o'clock plant. Undulation fowl, skin color in cow. So these are all examples of incomplete dominance. Preferably you write the example that has been given in your textbook, that is Antirrhinum majus. Write any 2 factors affecting Hardy-Weinberg principle: genetic drift, gene flow, mutation, recombination, and natural selection. Any 2 of this you can write. What is the significance of selectable marker in cloning vectors? The selectable markers, they help in identifying and eliminating non-transformants. The selectable marker also selectively permits the growth of transformants. The codon AUG has dual function, justify. So the AUG, which is an initiator codon, it not only codes for the amino acid methionine, it also initiates the protein synthesis or starts the protein synthesis by binding to the rRNA. That's the reason it has a dual function. One, it can synthesize F-met or formyl methionine. Another, it starts the initiation of protein synthesis by binding to the ribosomal RNA. What are the criteria of DNA to act as a genetic material? Genetic material must generate its replica by replication. It should chemically and structurally be stable. Genetic material should provide the scope for slow changes or mutation that are required for evolution. So these are the criteria for DNA to act as a genetic material. It should also be able to express itself in the form of Mendelian characters for DNA to be a genetic material. Part C, it is 3 mark questions. You have nearly 5 questions you have to answer. 3 into 5, it is 15 marks. Of 8 questions, you have to answer 5 questions. Each question carries 3 marks. Name the types of vegetative propagules in following plants. A, potato, it is tuber. B, ginger, it is rhizome. C is bryophyllum, leaf buds. 20th question is, what is pollination? Mention any 4 features of wind pollinated flowers. Pollination is the process of transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the same or different flower of the same plant or different plant. We term it as pollination. So wind pollinated flowers, they are going to have pollen grains which are light. Pollen grains are non-sticky. The stigma of wind pollinated or anemophilous flowers is large and feathery so that they can trap the airborne pollen grains. Wind pollinated flowers have single ovule in each ovary, and numerous flowers are packed into an inflorescence to increase the chances of pollination by the airborne pollen grains. So 21st question is, what is infertility? Give reasons for infertility in humans. Infertility is the inability of the couple to produce children in spite of unprotected sexual cohabitation or sexual intercourse. The reasons for infertility in human beings are physical aspects, congenital diseases, use of certain drugs, immunological and psychological aspects could also be one of the reasons for infertility in humans. So half mark each for all these reasons for infertility, and 1 mark for the definition of infertility. What are analogous organs? Give any 2 examples. The organs that are anatomically different in structure, though they perform similar functions, are called analogous organs. Example, wings of butterfly and birds, sweet potato and potato, eye of octopus and mammals, flippers of penguins and dolphins. So these are all examples for analogous organs. So mention the types of carcinogen with an example for each. Physical carcinogens, X-rays, lambda rays, UV rays. Chemical carcinogens is tobacco, mustard gas, coal tar, benzyl diazepines, asbestos. Biological carcinogens are oncogenic viruses like polyoma virus, HTLV. Write the meaning of the following. 24th question, it is explant, totipotency and somaclones. Explant is any excised or separated vegetative part of the plant which is used in plant tissue culture is known as explant. Any excised vegetative part of the mother plant which is utilized in plant tissue culture is termed as explant. Totipotency is the genetic ability of any cell, tissue and organ to form a complete plant in lab conditions or in vitro is termed as totipotency. So somaclones are genetically identical plants obtained through plant tissue culture, which are also called as clones, are called somaclones. Draw a neat label diagram of simple stirred tank bioreactor. So half mark is there for each labeling. So you have to draw the mortar, the simple stir tank bioreactor, the blades, flat blade, impeller, culture broth, sterile air zone, acid base for pH control, steam for sterilization, entry of it. All this labeling has to be done. Half mark for each labeling, and you get 3 marks for the complete diagram with labeling. Mention 3 causes for biodiversity loss. So any 3 causes you can write of the 4: habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, alien species invasion, co-extinction. So any 3 of this you can write. Part A consists of 2 sections, section 1 and section 2. The section 1, the first question, that is the 27th one, is describe the pollen grain of angiosperms. Pollen grains are spherical structures. They measure about 20 to 25 micrometer in diameter. So they have 2 walls, an outer exine made up of sporopollenin and inner intine, which is pectocellulosic in nature. The pollen grain exine has prominent apertures or openings called as germ pores, where sporopollenin is absent. Through this germ pores, the pollen tube is produced. A mature pollen grain has 2 male nuclei or gametes and a large vegetative cell or tube cell. The large vegetative cell has abundant reserve food material. The generative cell floats in the cytoplasm of vegetative cell. So draw a neat label diagram of sectional view of human male reproductive system. Half mark each for the labeling. So 10 labelings you have to do, and so it has to be appropriate labeling. So the male reproductive system consists of the glans part of a penis, the foreskin which covers the glans, and the testis. So which the common opening, that is urethral opening, urethra tube is there. Then the bulbourethral gland, prostate gland, seminal vesicles, urinary bladder. All these labelings has to be done. At one side of it, you are showing the epididymis, vasa efferentia, reti testis, testicular lobules. So it's almost a dissected part of the testis showing the inner content. So the vas deferens and ureter. All this labeling, 10 labelings, if you do it, half mark you get for the diagrammatic view of male reproductive system. Explain Mendel's experiment to describe inheritance of one gene with reference to height of pea plant, that is monohybrid cross. It is a cross between 2 plants in relation to a pair of opposing characters, that is pure tall and pure dwarf. So height of the garden pea plant has been selected for monohybrid cross. When a homozygous dominant tall plant is crossed with a with homozygous recessive dwarf plant, the F1 generation produces hybrid tall or heterozygous tall. So when they are F1 is self-pollinated, that is the F2 generation. So you are going to get 4 types of gametes, which when crossed you are going to get it as when F1 is selfed. So 3 tall plants and 1 is dwarf plant based on their external features. When you look into its genetic makeup, so 1 plant is pure tall or homozygous tall, 2 of the plants are heterozygous tall, and 1 is homozygous dwarf. So thus the phenotypic ratio of monohybrid cross is 3:1, and the genotypic ratio is 1:2:1. So 1 mark each for all the steps that you are going to write and explain. Mention the salient features of Human Genome Project. The human genome consists of 3,164.7 million nucleotide bases. The average gene consists of 3,000 bases, but the size varies greatly. The largest known human gene being dystrophin at 2.4 million bases. The total number of genes is estimated at 30,000, much lower than the earlier estimates of 80,000 to 1,40,000. Almost all 99.9% nucleotide bases are exactly the same in all the people. The difference lies in 0.1%. The functions are unknown for over 50% of discovered genes. Less than 2% of the genome it codes for proteins. Repeated sequences make up a very large portion of the human genome. Repeated sequences are stretches of DNA sequences that are repeated many times, sometimes 100 to 1000 times, They are thought to have no direct coding function, but they shed light on the structure of chromosome dynamics and evolution. Chromosome 1 has maximum genes, that is 2968, almost 3000 genes, and the Y has the fewest genes, that is 231 genes. Scientists have identified about 1.4 million locations where there is a single base DNA differences. We call it as SNPS, single nucleotide polymorphism, or SNPs as it is pronounced, which occurs in humans. This information promises to revolutionize the process of finding chromosomal locations for disease which are associated with sequences, and also to trace human history. Name the disease caused by the following organism. Rhinovirus causes common cold, Epidermophyton causes ringworm, Salmonella typhi causes typhoid, Wucheria malayi causes elephantiasis or filariasis, and Plasmodium vivax causes malaria. So 1 mark each for the diseases that are caused by this organisms. What is beekeeping or apiculture, which is also called as, and write any 4 points for successful beekeeping. Beekeeping, it is the maintenance of beehives of honeybees for the production of honey and bee wax. The knowledge of the nature and habit of bees is required for successful beekeeping. Selection of suitable location for keeping the beehives, catching and hiving of swarms or group of bees, management of beehives during different seasons, handling and collection of honey and of beeswax, so are very important for successful beekeeping. So any 4 points you can write out of this 5. The part D section 2 consists of the first question, describe the biogas plant with a neat label diagram. The biogas plant consists of a concrete tank that is 10 to 15 feet deep, in which biowaste are collected and slurry of dung is fed. A floating cover is placed over the slurry, which keeps on rising as the gas produced in the tank due to microbial activity. The biogas plant has an outlet which is connected as a pipe to supply biogas to nearby houses. The spent slurry is removed through another outlet and may be used as fertilizer. So you have to draw the diagram. 2 marks is for the diagram, 3 marks is for the diagram, half mark for each labeling, and 2 marks is for explanation. You can see this diagram, a typical biogas plant. There is a digester and there is a formation of methane and carbon dioxide in the gas holder. The slurry is collected as sludge and it can be utilized as fertilizers. So the gas that is obtained is collected and utilized as a source of energy, the biogas plant, biogas, and the dung water is fed through this. So these are all the components of a typical biogas plant. What is biopiracy? How ADA, so ADA deficiency, is cured by gene therapy. Biopiracy is the use of bioresources by multinational companies and other organizations without proper authorization from the countries and people concerned, without compensatory payment. Lymphocytes from the blood of the patient are grown in a culture outside the body. A functional ADA, adenosine deaminase gene, complementary DNA, within brackets is using a retroviral vector, is introduced into these lymphocytes, which are subsequently returned to the patient. So the gene therapy is done for the lymphocytes outside the patient's body. However, as these cells are not immortal, the patient requires periodic infusion of such genetically engineered lymphocytes. If the gene is isolated from marrow cells, bone marrow cells producing ADA, is introduced into cells at early embryonic stages, it could lead to a permanent cure. That is how ADA deficiency can be cured temporarily as well as permanently by gene therapy. What is ecological succession? Write types of plant succession, and C is represent pyramid of number in the grassland ecosystems. All of them carry 1 mark each. Pyramid of number is going to have 3 marks. The gradual and fairly predictable changes in the species composition at a given area is termed as ecological succession. It's a slow process and predictable. Right, types of plant succession are primary succession, where there are no plants and it is for the first time you find the succession of plants. Secondary succession is where the plants were there but they were destroyed by natural calamities or by human activities, and so appearing for the second time we call it as secondary succession. And now the pyramid of number in grassland ecosystems, you have to write the primary producers will definite number, you can give number of individuals like 5,842 plants primary producers. Primary consumers are 708. The pyramid of numbers. Secondary consumers are 3,54,000. So 7,08,000, 5,84,000. Tertiary consumers are only 3. So this is how they vary in the grassland ecosystem, the pyramid of numbers, but it's an upright pyramid. 36 question, explain mutualism with example. Mutualism is an interaction between two organisms of different species where both partners are benefited, that is plus and plus. The participating or interacting species are called mutualists or symbionts. Examples are lichens, it is a mutual association between algae and fungi, where algae prepares food and is used by fungi. So most of the time quote the examples that is given within the textbook. Rhizobium and legume root nodules also exhibit symbiotic nitrogen fixation. Mycorrhizae is a symbiotic association between fungi and roots of higher plants. Fungi gets nutrition and plant get phosphorus. Cellulosic digestion in ruminants by bacteria, wherein the ready food in the gut of ruminants is also an example for symbiosis. Pollination by wasps in fig and Ophrys orchid. Wasps get nectar from flowers during their foraging. Flowers in turn gets pollinated, that is prerequisite for fertilization. So the pseudo-copulation as well as pollination by wasps in fig is also an example for mutualism where both of the species are benefited. Write a brief account of electrostatic precipitator with a label diagram. So 2 marks is for the label diagram. So the dirty air, the dirt particles or dust particles, they are negatively charged, wire is there, and they become corona, discharge corona, and when they pass through this collection plate which is grounded, clean air comes inside. That is how the dusty air or dirty air is purified to obtain clean air. Explanation is for 3 marks, and this electrostatic precipitator with diagram with more than 4 labelings is 2 marks. So the explanation is it has electrode wires that are maintained at several thousand volts, which produce a corona that releases electrons. These electrons attach to dust particles, giving them a net negative charge. The collecting plates are grounded and they attract the charged dust particles. The velocity of air between the plates must be low enough to allow the dust to fall. It can remove over 99% of particulate matter present in the exhaust from a thermal power plant. So that completes our question paper for March 2017. Best wishes for all of you friends who are taking up your upcoming PU board examinations from Government of Karnataka or CBSE board. Best wishes for you all. Thank you.